Let's jump right into today's explainer because we are looking at one of the market's absolute most fascinating background players. I mean, this is a company whose products you literally interact with every single day, probably without even realizing it. It's an unbelievable story of survival, total reinvention, and just incredible scale.
Just to put that scale into perspective for a second, in 2024, Bunzl raked in a massive £11.8 billion in revenue. They're operating entirely behind the scenes with a global workforce of almost 27,000 employees. So yeah, they are the very definition of an unavoidable corporate giant. They're the guys keeping other businesses running smoothly around the clock.
Okay, let's dive into this. Because honestly, the most fascinating thing about Bunzl isn't even their modern dominance. It's actually their wild, highly unexpected origins. You know, when you see an £11.8 billion logistics empire, you'd naturally assume it was born out of the modern shipping boom, or, I don't know, the tech era. But to find the roots of this giant, we actually have to travel all the way back to the mid-19th century.
Well, actually, right before we go back in time, let's just ground ourselves in where they stand globally today. Even though Bunzl is a publicly traded company sitting in London and their European HQ is over in Amsterdam, their footprint is completely global. Get this, the vast majority of their sales, 56%, are actually generated over in North America today. Continental Europe brings in 20%, and the rest of the world fills in that final 24% from places ranging everywhere from Sao Paulo all the way to Melbourne.
Now, the contrast between their past and their present is, well, it's absolutely staggering. The entire foundation of this company back in the 19th century was built on trading textile scraps. Seriously, textile scraps, making paper, and eventually pumping out cigarette filters. Yet today, they are an absolute kingpin of global logistics and essential wholesale distribution. The journey between those two wildly different identities is without a doubt one of the greatest survival stories in business history.
So, let's walk through the major inflection points of this really tumultuous survival story. The timeline officially kicks off in 1854 when the business was founded in Bratislava. Fast forward to 1883, and the headquarters moved to Vienna as things were really taking off. But then, we hit a very dark, tragic period in 1938, when the entire company was lost to the process of Aryanization under the Nazi regime. But, as you'll see, the story did not end there. By 1940, the company was miraculously reborn in London, which really set the stage for the giant we know today.
But let's go back to those early days. It all started with a man named Moritz Bunzl. Back in 1854, he started a business based on this simple, historical trade known in German as Hadernhandel. Basically, Moritz was a rag trader. His whole business model was going out, collecting textile waste and scraps, sorting them out, and then getting them ready to be recycled and reused by the broader textile and paper industries. It was super humble, gritty even, but man, did it prove to be highly lucrative.
And under Moritz's sons, Max and Ludwig, the business just exploded across Europe. After they relocated the HQ to Vienna in 1883, they didn't just stick to trading scraps. They actually started buying up factories and paper mills for their own production lines. By the 1930s, this humble little rag trade had scaled into a massive Central European network. We're talking over 1,800 employees, and all these vast holdings consolidated under one really powerful holding company.
But in 1938, everything changed. Following the annexation of Austria into the German Reich, the Jewish Bunzl family was subjected to intense, horrific persecution. Family members were driven into exile, and tragically some were murdered. And during this chaos, the entire Bunzl corporate empire was seized through that forced process of Aryanization. The Österreichische Kontrollbank stepped in and took over the assets, literally stripping the family of this massive business they had spent over 8 decades building.
Let's move to and see how this builds, because the rebirth here is truly remarkable. Forced to flee, Martin, Hugo, and George Bunzl made it to the UK and founded Tissue Papers Limited in London in 1940. At first, they pivoted hard into producing cigarette filters, which obviously boomed in the 1950s. But the absolute crucial turning point happened in 1979. By completely exiting their original Austrian assets, they freed up the capital and the strategic focus to transition entirely into modern wholesale distribution, and that exact move laid the groundwork for the global logistics giant they are today.
So the really crucial point for us today is how this incredible story of survival and reinvention actually translates into unbelievable financial reliability right now. In the investing world, Bunzl is widely celebrated as a dividend aristocrat. Now, if you're not familiar, this is an elite title. It's reserved for companies that haven't just paid dividends consistently, but have actually increased their payout to shareholders year after year for decades. It is the absolute ultimate marker of corporate stability and predictable cash flow.
And Bunzl's track record here? It's simply phenomenal. They've increased their dividend for 31 consecutive years. 31! Right now, they offer a really solid 3.2% dividend yield. And over the last decade, that dividend has grown by an average of 7.9% every single year. Because this growth is just so predictable, the company is heavily favored by institutional investors. Actually, nearly 57% of Bunzl is owned by investment funds and ETFs. You've got absolute giants like BlackRock and Schroeder Investment Management holding significant stakes here. To truly appreciate Bunzl's rock-solid logistics reliability, I find it really helps to compare it to a totally different sector. Let's take a major UK homebuilder like Persimmon plc, for example. As a recent Cokind report pointed out, Persimmon relies on a highly cyclical, super capital-intensive model of land acquisition and housing development. Right? When interest rates are low and housing demand is booming, they generate massive cash and pay out huge dividends. But the second that housing market slows down, well, that income can become incredibly volatile.
And this brilliantly illustrates exactly where a company like Bunzl fits into an investor's ecosystem. Look at it this way. You have your high-yield cyclical players like Persimmon's sitting near 6%. Then, on the other end, you have lower-yielding mature giants like the software company Sage Group or the pharma giant GSK hovering around 2%. You even have your broad market ETFs yielding just over 1%. But Bunzl? With its steady, completely unglamorous logistics model, it sits right in that sweet spot at 3.2%. It's offering a highly reliable yield that consistently outpaces broad market funds but completely skips that heart-stopping volatility.
Which really leaves us with a final thought to ponder as we wrap up this explainer. In a world that is just so obsessed with flashy tech startups and rapid disruption, is boring actually brilliant? I mean, Bunzl's story proves that a company dealing in the unglamorous background logistics of everyday goods, a company that literally started as a 19th century rag trader, can outlast empires, survive world wars, and quietly become an 11.8 billion pound titan. It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What overlooked, boring stock currently hiding in plain sight is quietly building tomorrow's fortunes today? Thank you so much for joining me to explore this incredible story, and hey, keep looking for those brilliant businesses hiding in the background.